loading, rolling.
Okay. This is something we keep forgetting on doing.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. As you might know, my name is Tim with Escort Monitoring Systems, and here's Arslan. Let me just turn this thing a bit this way so we can.
Thank you.
One of the great leading technical specialists here. We are going to tell
That's
you.
not true.
We are going to tell you some information about Escort mobile application. As you might know, we've recently issued a few updates, and we actually published these applications for Android and for iOS. And some questions may have arisen since then. So we are here to give some clarifications on that.
Yeah, sure. And by this webinar, we are actually starting a whole series of monthly webinars. Each of them will be about this or that product that we offer. So the next probably will be all about the configurator software that you use on your laptops. And then we will go to the brand new inclination angle sensor.
Yes, the one we just
BLE
recently started making.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on with it.
Sure. So let's go to our today's agenda, actually. Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
Okay.
Please announce what we are going to discuss.
All right. So our plan today, we are going to provide some general information on application and general information on BLE sensors, as well as some history. When and what was the reason for creating it, and basically what led us to say no to wires. We will give some highlights on basic functionalities, connecting and configuring BLE sensors and wired fuel level sensors using your mobile app, which is possible. We will give some highlights on additional features, not so many just yet, but we are working on this one. Also, we have gotten a few questions previously regarding Bluetooth specifications. What is BLE? What is 4.0? What is 5.0? Are they compatible? So we'll give some information on that. And we also will tell you a bit more about our plans for the future, what we will develop, and what are our big plans for the application as far as creating big eco structure, eco field of integrators and us, the manufacturer. After each section, we will have time for questions and answer. And this video recording will be available on YouTube with time codes for each part.
So you will be able to refer back to it in case you have some questions left, or maybe if you need to remind yourself on this or that question. Okay, let's move on. And here's some general information.
A few years ago, we had this crazy idea to create fully autonomous fuel level sensors without wires. A few people got very excited about this, but most of us were very skeptical. And we did meet with some baby diseases that we had to cure within first few years. Eventually, we had to find special compound formula for the battery. We had to find special battery for all this. We had to test it with the different kinds of trackers and equipment, blah, 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 all this. But eventually, we are here at the point when we've done integration with plenty of tracker manufacturers, and we are actually expanding our BLE line of equipment with a few pieces of equipment that we're going to tell about later, right?
Yeah.
Then, of course, when we talk about Bluetooth, we think of the phone, of the smartphone. This is where we met Bluetooth first. And logically, we had an idea of making the application for the smartphone for us to be able to configure the sensors, to set calibration values, to see the state of the sensor.
Right on the spot.
Yes, right on the spot with you, because this is something that we always have with us, our smartphones. And eventually, we've decided to make it all universal, one application for every single BLE device that we are manufacturing already.
And also wired sensors.
And also wired sensors, yes. Because, well, it's not implemented for iOS yet, but on the Android phones, we have micro USB or Type-C USB charging slots. So
that's right.
by the means of the OTG technology, we are able to convert the smartphone in the same thing as your PC is right now. Basically connect the wired sensor and configure them as well, just like your wireless sensors.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. So the app is available on smartphones that have at least Bluetooth 4.0, but naturally Bluetooth 5.0 is backward compatible with our BLE sensors, and so the app also works fine on the smartphones with the newer version of Bluetooth. As to the operation systems, then we have iOS and Android, since they dominate the market pretty much. The iOS version that supports our app starts with the 13 plus versions, and Android is 4.4. We have in our plans, well, we have the points that, I mean, we understand that we need to make our app backward compatible with older versions, at least as to iOS. And according to our plans, this will be done by the end of the second quarter 2020, hopefully, because, well, our developers have a lot on their plate, actually. They do a lot of other stuff as well. So, yeah, as Tim mentioned, if you are using the smartphone on Android OS, then you are also able to configure the wired sensors, such as view level sensors or TD sensors, and the DU180, which is the inclination angle sensor. To do so, you need one of these devices that you see on your screens, which is OTG cable or OTG adapter. There is one setback actually in our app that our configurator has. When you are configuring the sensors from the laptop or a PC, then there's no problem with configuring two sensors at the same time. Unfortunately, using the app, you cannot do that. But then again, it's a rare case when a customer, I think it's more on the rare case side, when the customer has to install two sensors in the same tank. So, but we will definitely consider adding this option to the app as well.
Yeah, it actually doesn't happen that often. It happens for bigger tanks, you know. So in that cases, you still can use your PC. So there's no limitation to that. But yeah, in the future, we are developing this. Ideally, we are planning to get away from laptop computers at all. Not say no to the PC configuration app, but basically give you an opportunity just to get your smartphone or the tablet to the installation site.
That's right, because let's be honest, you need to be mobile, and wireless technologies are definitely the future in our industry. Okay, now let's move on. Tim, please.
Okay. All right. So what we have implemented a few new things. Some of you guys have had have bought our BLE sensors, TD BLE, with white lid. Now they look like this, like you can see on the picture. We manufacture them completely blacked out with a special QR code on the top, and we also write serial number on the top now, and the MAC address, which we didn't do before, but now we do, because that, you know, it was on the surface, but we didn't do it for some reason. You know, speaking of the baby diseases. Now, what you can do, and what we usually do is much faster, to add and to configure the sensor using your phone. All you have to do, you have to scan the QR code. Basically, you just hit the, oh, that's
Yeah, that's a short video. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So that's the way you do it. You just run the feature for the scanning of the QR code, and then you add the sensor. You scan the QR code on the top of the sensor, and it is automatically added. Easy as that. We are going to, you know, print these QR codes on all our BLE sensors for you guys to be able to just quickly scan and add it without actually typing in the MAC address. This is one of the things. What's it?
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Oh, no sound. Monzer, do you have no sound? Is that only for Monzer or anyone else as well?
Perhaps the speakers are off, or you need to turn the volume a little bit
up. Yeah, we use separate microphone, and you know, in order to provide a better sound quality. But if there are any complaints, yeah, Monzer, please tell us if you're able to get the sound back on. Okay, sound. Thank you, Sandeep.
Well, yeah. So in case you are not able to resolve this issue on your own, then I think you shouldn't waste your time. This recording will be online on YouTube, so you can go back to it later.
Yeah. Okay.
But if the sound is okay, then please stay tuned.
Okay, good. Let's continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is as much as for what we are putting on the top of the BLE sensors, and as much as we can tell you for now about the QR code scanning. I'm not sure what the plans would be for the QR codes at all in the future. Perhaps we will add some more QR codes to some other of our products, you know, in order for you to perhaps pay the bill using the application, or you know, maybe connect to some integrators in your area. But this is all in the future.
Yeah, and we have added MAC address or MAC address on the top, so that it would be more accessible if you needed to make the adjustments in your tracker. Okay, so
let me ask Mudassir asking as a question: is there any profile management on app, or anybody can install and use it? I guess that kind of refers to the question if your driver can actually download the app and install it.
They can.
Yeah, they can, but we are going to get to this. Do we have the password?
Yeah. Well, we have our sensors protected by a password.
Yeah.
You can set the password, and then the driver will only be able to see the main screen without actually interfering with any adjustments. But let's not forget that we are answering the questions only after each section of our presentation.
I got excited.
Yeah, sure.
You know, to address it right away.
No worries. We will address this question a little bit later. But you can ask them in the chat so that they are ready for us to see when we go to our Q&A section.
Okay.
So this is the main screen of TD BLE. I think I need to set the presentation in the full screen mode. During that, the chat will be off. But you know, in order to see everything in detail. So when you access the sensor, either via a QR code or by searching it manually using the identification number, the individual serial number of the sensor, you get to this main screen where you can see the serial number again, the firmware version, the current temperature, and of course, fuel level. Then also you can see the battery charge, the quality of the signal, and the sensor's ID and MAC address. Again, those parameters you need in order to connect the sensor to this or that tracker. As to the RSSI signal, it's not actually the quality of the signal on the sensor side, but on your phone's side. So you can have two different smartphones close to the sensor, and they will show different levels of RSSI signal, because it actually shows how well your device is catching that signal that comes from the sensor. So don't be surprised if in the tracker you see a lower number, for example. A good signal is considered to be around minus 60 decibels per meter. Anything below that is still okay, but if you go below minus 70, you will probably lose the signal.
Mm-hmm.
If the signal is better than minus 60, say minus 50 or minus 40, it's well, exceptionally good signal, actually. So yeah, that pretty much covers the main screen.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go to the settings menu.
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, here we got to this point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim. It's my slide, actually. Sorry about that.
Come on.
yeah, you'll get to speak on the next one. So if you go to the settings, here you can see the measurement range, which varies from 1023 to 4095. Also here you can see the filtration degree. The higher you set the higher filtration if you need it. If there is no need for that, if you're installing it on a regular vehicle that moves on quite smooth roads, then no need to set 15, for example. 5, 6 will suffice. If the roads are bad, then you go a bit higher. And if we are talking about TD BLE in particular, then say you're used to setting filtration degree to 10 on your trucks, because the roads are quite bumpy and all that. And then you install the TD BLE sensor on the same type of vehicle that is going to be moving on the same roads, and all other conditions will be the same. Then you need to set 5, because for TD BLE, it's a bit more tedious to process the information. And besides, it measures the current level, the fuel level, every 10 seconds, not every second, like the wired sensors do. So if you set filtration 15 on a TD BLE sensor, the data will be processed so slowly that you will get really weird readings sometimes. Say there was a refueling, and the driver actually stopped refilling the tank and continued going on. But while he was already on the move, the sensor will show that the refilling was actually still going on.
Mm-hmm.
So to avoid that, you need to lower the filtration a little bit. Also, don't forget that every time you change something in the parameters, you need to tap the button Set Parameters. And in the settings menu, you actually can calibrate the sensor. You fill it with fuel, either by inverting it and pouring the fuel inside the tubes, or by putting the sensor into into a tank, or say a tube that keeps fuel inside. It's really about filling the sensor from down to top to the drainage holes. Then you click the full. And only after that, you let all the fuel out, and then you hit the empty button. Also, here you can see the current level, which actually says a lot about how sensor is faring. If you see the values of CNT below 10,000, well, unfortunately, your sensor is not working properly because the tubes are off. I mean, they are disconnected from the head of the sensor where all the processing units are. In this case, you have to troubleshoot that, and we will replace the sensor most likely. If the current level is way above full value that you had previously installed, in this case, you probably got a short circuit. This happens when some alien materials, alien liquids get between the tubes, like water, for example, or some alien objects like little pieces of metal. They actually connect the tubes between themselves, and this causes this short circuit. In this case, you can also see that the level that is shown by the sensor is 7,000. This is actually a service code that lets you know that, okay, there is a short circuit. You need to clean the space between the tubes, and you'd better use pressurized air to remove everything from the space between the tubes, and flush it with the clean fuel. So we have prepared a short video on how to calibrate the sensor using the app, and how to calibrate the tank using the app. Let me run it, please. Yeah, here's the video. There's no sound, but I'll be commenting on everything that happens on the screen. Just a second, please. The video is loading. So outside the tank, you do it like that. Okay, you need to block, to seal the drainage holes by using something like this insulation tape that I used creating this video. You have to fix it really tight in order for the fuel not to be able to escape through those holes. Then you invert the sensor and pour the fuel inside. We don't have fuel in our office, so I had to do it with alcohol, which is rubbing alcohol. It's like 99 degrees or something. Please, it's not water, and don't try to run tests using the water, because in this case you will get short circuit, and you will have to wait until all the water evaporates from the space between the tubes, so that it could resume its proper functioning. So you fill it to the brim. Then in the app, you go to settings. And as you can see, the app instantly demands you to enter the password. So naturally, if you get a new sensor, if you go to the settings, the app will ask you to establish the password, to set it, in order to protect the sensor from unauthorized persons. Okay. Then you wait until the level is stable and hit the full button. Then you let the fuel out. And before you set empty, you need to remove any material that you used, like this insulation tape, from the drainage holes. Let the fuel out, wait for 2 or 3 minutes, and then you go back to the settings and hit the empty button. And remember, your full reading should be at least 1.5 times bigger than your empty. If it's not that, then you probably, there probably was some mistake in calibration. You need to try and recalibrate the sensor again. Then you install the sensor on the tank. This is actually a clip from another video that we shot in Russian. It was about TD BLE sensors. And then you go to tank calibration menu, hit the start button, create a new file, select the way you're going to calibrate the tank, either by filling or by draining, In case you opt for draining, then you need to set the eventual full volume of the tank. But usually, I think our customers prefer the filling way of calibrating the tank.
I do prefer it. It's easier.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, unless you have some kind of tube or some kind of barrel filled with fuel handy there. Yes, perhaps. But if you do it on the street, it's much easier to just turn the sensor upside down.
Yeah, sorry, I have to rewind a little bit back. So you select the name for your file, and then set the step, or actually the portion of the fuel that will going to be poured into the tank several times during the tank calibration. In general, we recommend at least 10 portions to be added to the tank, so that the sensor better understands how to translate the level reading into volume reading. So if you say have 100 liters tank, then you need to divide by 10 and you get the 10-liter portion. In case you have, say, if you're counting in gallons and you have, say, a tank that measures 18 gallons, then better to go for 18 portions of 1 gallon. This would be ideal, or at least, I don't know, 9 portions of 2 gallons. But in this case, there could be a bigger margin of error. So to avoid that, you need to, well, the more portions, the better, eventually. Okay. So here, our calibration table starts to appear. Every time you see that the level, after you poured your portion inside the tank and the level is stable, you hit the plus button. And you can always change the portion. Say you have a tank that has somewhat complicated geometrical form. There is some irregularity here and there. And in this case, when the fuel level reaches this part where there is an angle or some irregularity, you can drop down the portion from, say, 25 liters to 15 or even 10, and increase the number of portions until you get past this complicated part of the tank.
Mm-hmm. Let me just add something here. If you have the sensor with a collet connector, you might as well do that for that particular point when you have the collet connector connecting to two parts of the sensor.
Yeah.
As far as I know, because that is also a change in the geometry, however, not of the tank, but of the sensor. So, we have discussed it with a few guys, who've done installation of the long sensors, and they do recommend doing that for that kind of extending sensors.
Mm-hmm. That's a very valuable observation and recommendation. And then you proceed adding the portions and increasing the number of lines in your table until you get to the full tank. So the principle is the same. We were not using the real fuel, so our readings are a bit off. Yours should be more or less, like smoothly increasing, not jumping from 500 to 2000 or something like that.
What did you do? Dry calibration?
Yeah, I used condensators to imitate the fuel. Yeah, and then the app reminds you that after the calibration and sensor calibration and tank calibrations are done, you need to set the filtration on. Whereas during those two procedures, your filtration should be 0, because the filtration affects how fast the sensor precedes the fuel readings that it actually gets.
That was the problem when you could wait up to 15 minutes between the pouring the portions. And most likely that was the case when the filtration was on when calibrating it.
Yeah. When actually doing tank calibration.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to, I don't know, to stop calibrating the tank, something happened, for example, you had to direct your attention somewhere else, you can always get back to it. Simply hit the continue button, select the file that you were actually, doing, and then you just continue. There on that submenu, you can also share the table that you get with your colleagues via some messenger or email, for example, in case you need that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then you go to the settings, and only after you have done the sensor and tag calibration, you set the filtration according to your needs. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now let me get back to the presentation. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually our video tank calibration.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, so now we'll get to the point where we actually address question of Mudassir regarding who can get access to the sensor, full access. You have to set the password for the sensor. The thing is that obviously anybody can download the application from the Apple Store or from the Google Store, and then can get access to it. But only the person who did set the password can get access to the calibration point, to calibration values, to anything that can that actually matters in terms of changing the data that you can see on the monitoring platform.
Yeah, only the person who knows the password
Mm-hmm.
can change
Mm-hmm.
the configurations
Mm-hmm.
of the sensor.
Mm-hmm. The okay, we're all human beings, and we forget things. I forget my passwords all the time. So what happens if you have some kind of machinery that came back to you and you have to do something with a sensor and you don't know the password? Obviously, we can provide you the password. We have a special software that corresponds to the serial number of the sensor. What we need from you in order to do it the most efficient way, we need an email to us. That would be support@fmeter.ru. We will provide this email later on. So we have to receive an email from you telling us what company are you from, and giving us serial number of the sensor, I believe, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then we would be able to provide you with unlocking password. That also would be a good idea to contact your manager. That could be me. That could be anybody else from from exports department or whoever else might be, whoever you know. So we'll try to help you out for this matter, right? Another thing, there is physical feature for the matter. When the change of the temperature occurs, the matter tends to expand or shrink, depending on if the temperature goes down or it goes up. So the same goes for fuel. To predict that, we have installed temperature sensors inside the head of our sensors that can, by the use of the thermal compensation algorithm, predict that shrink or expansion. So when you fill up the fuel tanker inside of the warm garage and then you drive out in the cold, then you don't see that somebody stole 800 liters of your fuel, but instead thermal compensation will help you to avoid that kind of false readings. We do get some situations when in exceptionally hot climates or in exceptionally cold climates, thermal compensation sometimes does not function ideally. For example, in certain cases, we do recommend covering the sensors from the direct sun because they are black. So in certain cases, the sensor, temperature sensor inside of the head of the fuel level sensor can overheat a bit more than the fuel actually is. And in cold conditions, but it actually goes for a very, very north of Russia. As far I can see from the flags that I see on, whoever is joining, you guys are lucky not to have such kind of cold temperatures.
Yeah.
But the hot might be the case. Usually we observe that even when the thermal compensation fails in a way to predict the full shrink, we still are within 1% of the accuracy. That mostly goes for the big tanks. So we can observe this case to case, and we can solve it case to case, depending on where exactly the tank is located. And setting full and empty values manually. Arslan will help me out with this one.
Yeah, in case you have, for example, you have planned 4 or more installations, and all the tanks are, well, they come from the same manufacturer. They're supposed to have the same volume. So in order to save time, you can set full and empty values manually, although we generally do not recommend that, because even if the tanks come from the same manufacturer, the difference between them can be up to 15 liters, which is, well, it's a huge margin of error. And the readings that you get from those two tanks, although they seem to be made equal, will differ. And well, I think that it's a thing that you need to avoid, because you will get confused and the readings will be off. They won't be true. Okay, let me cover the temperature and lightning wireless sensor really quick. It's almost identical to TD BLE, but instead of the fuel level, it transmits the lightning level, which is measured in lux. Really, it's a very simple device. You don't need to configure it. The only thing that you might need to do is to update the firmware, which is done by accessing the additional features and hitting the restart button. But before you decide that you need to update the firmware, it's always better to consult with us before you do anything like that, because there is a really good chance that there's no need for that, but the chance of that you might actually cause some permanent damage to the sensor is also very high. So it's always better if you contact us, and then we help you decide whether you actually need to update the firmware or you don't. So it's questions and answers time. Please, if you have any questions, shoot. We will answer them. Meanwhile, I'm going to scan the chats. I see that the main question was about the password coming from Amudasir.
Yeah, we do have. I think we did address this question actually earlier. That if in case if somebody missed it, you can protect the sensor by the password.
Yeah.
Right. The highlights. If you forget the password, you give us the serial number for the sensor, and then we give you the password. But we have to know who you are, just for that extra feature of protection. So then your driver wouldn't just be able to write us on the email and tell, hey, you know what, I need the password for this kind of sensor. So it's better if we know what company and who is the a contact person, because we are acquainted with most of you guys anyway, so we would be know.
Can we use this app for TD 150 sensors also? Yeah, you just need the OTG cable or adapter. You connect the sensor to your phone via the converter.
Yeah, the C200M, the little black box.
Yeah.
That we're actually going to update maybe
Very soon.
Very soon. Yeah, we will include some Bluetooth connectivity in there. and we will make it a bit stronger because we have plenty of complaints about the
how flimsy they are.
How flimsy
sometimes.
they are. Honestly, yes. We don't like them, and we've been arguing with our production department. So yes, eventually we get this thing done, and it's going to be much more. Much stronger and much more rigid, and actually going to have this Bluetooth connectivity. So you will not need the cable no more to connect to your phone.
What is the correct value for maximum level? That depends. You change the length of the sensor, you need to recalibrate it. There's really no way to predict what the eventual maximum level will be for that sensor, because every fuel is different. Every portion of fuel is different. Even if you take two portions from the same barrel, they will have different levels of electric conductivity. And yeah, there is no way you could foresee what the maximum level should be. But in general, it should be at least 1.5 times bigger than the empty value. So what about the C200M connector?
Okay, what about it? Basically, the one that we have now and the one you have now, and I think I do remember that you had some problems with it. It's going to be called a bit different now. It's going to look different, and it's going to be made of. It's going to have a different design. Also, we will add Bluetooth connectivity, and also I think what else are we going to add? There is going to be Bluetooth connectivity.
Perhaps.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna look longer, like not a box, but it's gonna be like a pen, very thick pen, and it's gonna be one solid piece of plastic, so something that can take a beating and actually be more.
Yeah, in general, we are aiming to make it more sturdy, more durable.
Yep. What else?
I think yeah, when shall we use the C200M and the OTG cable? When you're configuring the wired sensors.
You have your, say, TD. That doesn't go. That's not true for the TD Online yet, because it's actually TD Online is essentially a GPS tracker inside of the sensor, so it requires different software. But for the fuel level sensors, you connect TD150. You connect it to C200M. You provide some external power because the phone cannot provide enough power. You connect it to the C200M, and then you connect the C200M box to your phone
via the OTG cable.
Via the OTG cable that you can. If you Google, you find what it is. Basically, the OTG is an expander for your micro USB on this side of the phone, or Type C, whatever what depending on what kind of model you have. Expands it to the big USB A type, where you can connect the C200M. Yes.
In default, we have 4095. We keep it or change it. You keep it. You cannot change it. The values I was talking about were raw values that the sensor gets while working. In general, 4095 you get after the sensor processes the raw data, the raw readings, and then transmits them into these units, actually, measurement units. So you keep it, yeah, sure, even if you change the length. But the sensor will find the formula to translate the current level, which is usually above 15,000, into those measurement units.
Yeah, we have a few to stay within the time frame. We have a few things to attend.
Yeah.
More. Let's go on.
Just one more question.
Yeah, fine.
How can we test the battery status from raw data? In general, our sensors transmit the battery charge, but not all trackers can read them. So in order to address that, you'd better speak with the tech support of the manufacturer that provided you with that tracker, because it really varies. NAV Telecom does it one way, Teltonica does it the other way. So
Yeah, one thing, since we started talking about Teltonika, one thing I noticed recently in the new firmware, which they issued, I think, in February or January 22nd, 21st or so. So in that firmware, you do get 35% of the battery charge. That's how it shows in the telemetry of the tracker. But however, it's not the percentage. It actually is 3.5 volts, which is perfectly normal for the battery to act on. They come from the factory, they come at 3.6, but they go down to 3.5 right away. So that's completely normal. But the confusion is that this percentage sign, which I mean, I personally have seen in the telemetry, maybe some of you guys didn't get it in some firmware that you use, but in the new firmware, it is shown like this. We are talking to Teltonika guys to change it.
Yeah. What's the recommended distance between the tracker and the sensor? The shorter, the better, in general. But we will cover that topic a bit later.
Yeah.
In general, if the tracker is in the vehicle's cabin and the sensor is on the tank, it's okay. Interests also, I will be interested in how to connect and read information when there are two or more sensors connected to one tracker. If we are talking about the Bluetooth connection, then it depends on the tracker. For example, to Teltonika FMB series, you can connect up to 4 sensors. If you have 2 sensors that are transmitting 2 different set of parameters or 4 parameters in general, then they probably will occupy. No, actually they don't. No, that's not the case. But in general, you can connect various number of sensors to the same tracker. And if we are talking about wired sensors, then the number is really huge if you're connecting via the RS485 interface. Okay, let's wrap it up here and keep going on. Okay, now let me cover the FLS connection configuration. Many parameters remain the same, just like in the TD BLE case. The RSSI signal and battery charge vanish, of course. But at the same time, you can see some new parameters on the main screen and on the settings screen. Main screen, serial number, firmware, version, temperature, and level. Also the mode to which the sensor has been set, and the type of smoothing or filtration. Sometimes in older versions it's called smoothing, in newer versions it's called filtration, but we are moving towards the filtration option. Then main settings includes network address if you are installing using the RS485 interface. Then measurement range, filtration and its degree, modes, and then you can also install full and empty for, actually do the sensor calibration for the wired sensors as well. The procedure is identical to that of a TD BLE sensor. Now, really shortly about the type of smoothing. Intellectual or intelligent is based on how fast the fuel comes in when you are refilling at the gas station. So it takes the average speed of such a refilling and compares any other changes in fuel level with that, and then decides either it was a real change because of the refilling, or it was just a random fluctuation caused by some other factors. And the median smoothing or filtration is based on how many readings the sensor takes in order to calculate the average according to a certain formula. So if you set 15 filtration, then it will take 15 first readings, and then add the 16th and proceed with the next 15 readings. I mean, from first to 15, then from 2 to 16, from 3 to 17, from 4 to 18, and so on and so on. So it will always be 15 readings. And in this case, you get the well, far more smooth graph. I mean, eventually. Okay. Now, additional features and tank calibration. Just like with the TD BLE, you can set the password. In order to reset it, you need to send us an email with your official requests, and we will respond to that by sending you a digit combination that unlocks your sensor. Then here we also have thermal compensation. You can also set full and empty manually. In case you have done the calibration before for one tank and now you have to install on the equal tank or the same tank. I mean, almost the same tank. But again, we advise against that because every tank is actually different. In general, the tank calibration is done identically to that of a TD BLE. But in case you are opting for frequency or analog mode, you should take the level readings from the tracker's configurator or the platform you use, because the voltage that you see in our configurator is not true. It's calculated according to a certain formula. And again, every tracker has its own resistance that is going to affect the eventual voltage reading. So you need to see the voltage that the tracker gets, not that is calculated by our configurator. Okay, just a few words about our wired DU180 sensor. On the main screen, you can see the serial number, firmware, network address, mode. There are 5 of them. Current angle. Here you can also set the zero parameter, the horizon, and the status of the sensor. So this sensor measures at which angle a certain part of the vehicle currently is. Like, for example, the manipulator of the excavation machine? Excavator?
Yeah, the arm of the excavator.
Yeah. The bucket mode, it's called. You need to set to the sensor to the bucket mode in order to do that. And there are also for modes for different trucks, for different garbage
for tipper trucks, for manipulators.
Yeah.
For certain cases, you have to monitor angle constantly.
In
other cases, you just have to set a critical angle, say 15 degrees, just to see if the tipper did a tipping operation or if the crane actually has lifted the arm, or your excavator operator was just sleeping all day and didn't do any useful job. So that's one of the main ideas. So that also can be configured from our application. It's I think we're gonna have to make a separate webinar for the angle sensor, for additional sensors, because it's very extensive. Yeah.
We really need to we would have to need more time to cover everything. So we have decided that there will be another webinar that will focus on the settings and different modes of the DU180 sensor in particular. So stay tuned.
Yep. What else we got? Okay, let's address a few questions here, and this is good because we have 5 more minutes that we can stay within this time frame here. I think what else we got? How to clear my it's okay. Yeah. It's not 35%.
It's 35 microvolts.
Yeah. So which corresponds to 3.5 volts.
Yeah.
But in Teltonika software configuration, there is a confusion, a mistake basically made by them. There is a percentage sign. So you have to ignore it when configuring the sensor by using Teltonika configurator. Okay, what else? Did I miss anything on the top? What I'll guess. Okay, when OTG cable will be available for purchase? We jumped over the question, but are the apps already in App Store and Play Store? Yes, the apps are already on App Store and Play Store. You can go to our website to the download tab, and then on the TD BLE tab, you'll find links to both Apple and Google Play stores.
Yeah.
OTG cable, we can sell it, we have it, but any OTG cable available from your local computer store will work. You just have to make sure it's not for charging, but for data transfer, and that will be perfectly fine.
What's the minimum height if we want to cut the BLE probe? Just like with the wired sensors, it's 15 centimeters.
15 centimeters. We had some cases when the sensors were cut up to 12. The accuracy did suffer a bit, but the tank was so small, so this accuracy didn't matter much.
But in general, we do not recommend that because, yeah, the readings will be completely off.
Can we use a single sensor with multiple or no VTS device? VTS, I guess that stands for a tracking device, vehicle tracking. Okay, software device. Well, I mean, it's if you are within the reach of Bluetooth, yeah, I guess you can get on without the software. I mean, you can get the data if it's a stationary tank or something. You can connect single sensor. With single sensor is in broadcasting mode. Basically, what you can do, you can get the data simultaneously to the tracker and to the phone.
And in case your tracker does not have a Bluetooth module, but it has RS 485 input, then you can connect our USB wired adapter, USB base, and it will get the data from the sensor and translate into RS 485 and then transmit it further to the tracker. Can we perhaps discuss how to calibrate the I4 display to reflect liters of fuel? Can we do this? Well, currently you cannot calibrate the I4 from the app.
Unfortunately, not yet. But in future, yes.
But in the future, we will add that feature.
But I know you who wrote this question. I will drop you this manual or did I already in Skype? I'll give you some directions on how to properly calibrate it. And unfortunately, we do have to round up for today because our time slot in this software.
I mean, there actually has been a meeting scheduled in this area. So if you don't mind, if we turn off for like 5 minutes and move to another room, then we could continue.
Oh, you think? Okay, let's do that.
If our attendees have no issues with that, then no problem.
Yeah, let's just switch off the video for a couple minutes and then we'll move on to the different room because we've occupied the big conference room.
Yeah. Sorry about that, really. Just 5 minutes, not more. Please stay online.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay. Let's check the connection once again. How is the connection quality? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, it's mainly about the sound actually.
So let's get to the questions now. Let's get back to the questions. What we see. What is the minimum height? I think we did answer that. What is the purpose of thermal compensation? Serves.
I think those are two different questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Well, we did cover that before. If you will download the, you watch the webinar later on in YouTube, you'll find the answer to this question. But let me just get, in case somebody else missed it. Thermal compensation algorithm utilizes built-in temperature sensor that we have built inside of the sensor head, fuel level sensor head. It compensates for the shrinkage and for expansion of the fuel during drops or peaks of the temperature. For example, let's imagine the situation when you fill up the fuel tanker in a hot, warm garage, and then you drive out in the cold. Or maybe you've been filling up in the underground, somewhere fuel from the underground that is cold and it's hot outside. So it's going to expand or it's going to shrink. So for your fuel level sensor not to get wrong reading of wrong filling or wrong theft, the thermal compensation algorithm matches. Sometimes in certain extreme conditions, it might not be very effective, but we try. We in the new firmware versions, we sometimes make some tweaks for certain areas, for certain geographical areas. But for example, the worst case scenario, it's tropical mountains. When it's up, very, very up in the mountains, and it gets hot under the sun, and the conditions are not something that are here on the factory. So the thermal compensation may be faulty at that point a bit. But we can discuss it case to case, and then we try to stay within 1% of mistake of the error margin. Even for the big tanks, this discrepancy shouldn't be more than 1%.
In general.
In general, yes.
Is 3.5 volts signifies? Well, yeah, it does. When you get a new sensor, the battery charge is always 3.5 volts. So in this case, yeah, your battery is fully charged and fully operational. If it drops below 3, closer to 2.5, then you should be concerned, but not that much actually. If it goes below that, then yeah, there might be some issues with the connectivity.
But I think the minimum, what's the minimum value for the battery? For the sensor, do you remember? I think it's 2 point something.
2 point something, yeah. Below 2.5, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you can be sure that the sensor, that the battery will stay the same. Generally, we have sensors out on the street for over 2 years now. One of the first ones, just for the very, very long testing. And when we sometimes, from time to time, we connect to these sensors by the mobile app, we see that the batteries are still live. So these sensors, they still are able to read the fuel data and transfer it. Bonjour. Okay.
What will be covered in the next session? Well, the next webinar will probably be about a new configurator that is going to be released next month. If there are some setbacks as to the schedule, then we will have to opt for probably DU sensors or some other topic, but we will keep you informed and keep you posted on that.
Yeah, it might be affected by some challenges, by some questions we can, we will get throughout this year, this month or so. I just allow myself, since I'm broadcasting, like say hi to your family. For our Indian partners, I want to announce that we are going to participate in a connected vehicle 2020 in Bangalore, India, this March from 4th to 7th. And then we are going to visit every major city we can in India for the whole duration of March. There's going to be Mumbai, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, and a few more cities. So let's stay in touch. We'll keep you updated. If we come to your city, we'll definitely contact you.
Yeah, and you will be able to discuss some issues or ask some questions,
Yeah,
during
live
the personal
personally.
meeting. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
What else we get? How often TD BLE sensor is broadcasting data? Mhm.
it can broadcast data every second. Uh, However, the actual reading will change every 10 seconds because the sensor measures the fuel every 10 seconds. How the trackers receive that data, well, that depends on the adjustments that you make to this or that tracker, and depends on their capacities. But in general, if you install with our USB base, wired base, you will be able to get the data from the sensor every second.
I think even the temperature of the fuel is being updated every 20 seconds or so. So basically, the packet of data that the sensor sends to the tracker, let's say every 10 seconds, is going to contain that old temperature reading from 20 seconds ago. But for the thermal compensation, it's pretty much enough.
Yeah.
And then 20 seconds, the fuel temperature will not drop or go up drastically for you to worry. And it's not really, it's more for the curiosity to know the fuel temperature.
In no signal mode can sensor keep that particular data. Unfortunately,
Not
no,
yet, not
not
yet.
yet. It
Hmm.
doesn't have a black box in
Hmm.
order to record the readings all the time.
Hmm.
So it's not like a TD online, for
Yeah,
example.
in TD Online, we have this option. It can record up to 1 month of data, track data,
Roughly. That
roughly.
depends
Yeah,
actually on how often
true.
the messages, I
True.
mean, the readings are recorded into the
True.
black
It's
box.
to be precise, it's 32,000 records. So
Yeah.
it could be enough for 1 month. So when it gets back online, it sends all the data to the server. For the TD BLE, we've had some challenges as to how to attach this fuel data to the track. But we've came up with a solution because there is a built-in clock inside of the TD BLE, and it's self-powered, so the clock will not die. What we've decided to do, we are building this new configuration for the TD BLE that will contain a black box. Things that we are going to plan to put in this black box is the fuel data. Is going to be recorded by the TD BLE, and then it's stored inside of the sensor's memory. And when the connection is reestablished back again, this fuel data is going to correspond to this inner clock time code. So then you can match it. But honestly, it's in the research and development stage. So as of now, neither sales department nor technical support
Yeah.
can answer this question fully. We know it's in development. We talk to research and development, but we don't know how it's going to be implemented.
How soon?
How soon and how precisely it's going to work.
Yeah.
But yes, it's definitely there's such kind of demand on the market, such kind of request. So we are working on this one. Also, maybe it's a spoiler, but maybe we will be able to program to give an opportunity to program the calibration table inside of the TD BLE as well. So then you can you can just basically attach different tracker or put it on a different software and still keep your calibration table if it's the same tank, obviously.
Yeah. Can BLE angle sensor have all three axes? It actually does. It kind of works in all three axes, but if you take the sensor,
Mhm.
I will
Yeah,
borrow
yeah, yeah.
your
Use my phone.
smartphone, Tim. So if you install it like that, sorry about the
Mhm.
camera, and then you move it in parallel to Earth, then in this case, nothing will be registered.
Mhm.
But if you move it like that, or perhaps like that, then yeah, the sensor will properly register all of the changes in its state in the angle.
As far for the experts department, we our management is making up the new price list with all these new positions included, with the angle sensor included, and TLBLE, the illumination temperature sensor included. As far as I can tell you, the angle sensor is going to cost roughly as much as the TD BLE sensors do. Some I think TL BLE has a bit different price, but I'm not sure which one, what exactly. So we're just waiting for these prices to be published and given to us, so then we would be able to share them with you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can wrap it up with questions and answers for that section of our presentation, and let's go on to some extra features.
What is notification?
Let me check. There's actually some questions. George Evesk wrote us on the setting with BLE base. We have some bug when we choose a BLE. Do you plan to fix it? Definitely, George. If you, well, I was not on that case resolving the issue, but I will discuss it with my colleagues. Probably they are already looking for some solution.
Yeah, let's. I will write you after this webinar, Josh. I will ask you what exactly is the issue, and then we'll get if there is a problem with the sensor, we'll replace it for you. If there's a Teltonica problem, we'll fight with them guys again. It takes forever for them to change the firmware, but we'll definitely try to do that. And we have a question from Jacques Brink from South Africa. Did you?
No, that was just okay.
Okay, good.
Jacques just told us that everything was okay.
That's good, Jacques.
We actually pleased to hear that. Okay, Tim, please, can you just really briefly cover the extra features that are
Okay, actually, I've been I have this Escort application installed on my phone as well, right? And then I was surprised when I can first I can for the iPhone users, you can choose white mode or black mode, which is pretty cool, I think. Also, we have a few features. I think, but that's not the flashlight feature is not for the iPhone yet. Because I don't see it here. It's for the Android. Right, you can turn on the flashlight directly from the Android application because there are plenty of cases when you might need it. Also, you can get directly to the technical support contacts, and that's pretty cool, I think, guys, because you just hit tech support right here. And then you get, unfortunately, my laptop camera is not great, but then you get WhatsApp, Viber, or Telegram contacts of the technical support.
So you can reach out to us
directly, and then
on the spot.
It's going to redirect you to the messenger installed to use on your phone, and then you'll be able to contact them directly. Please note there are, for this kind of particular messages, there are working hours. Because if they would answer this 24/7, they would get just overloaded. But if you go to our website fmeter.ru/English, you choose the English version and go to contacts, there are working times for these particular messages: WhatsApp, Viber, and Telegram. Please note that. And then if you speak any other language than Russian, you can choose the language here, and then basically that's pretty easy. You just find it, and then you change it in the very beginning. Here on the very beginning, you hit the language, and then you can choose Russian, English, or Portuguese, or Espanol. I guess we need to work on Francais as well, right? We need to work on that one as well. We just need to find somebody who actually speaks that language here in Russia. So yes, those are the extra features that we have. Not so many, but that actually leads us to the point where we started doing this. So we will definitely expand this section. The specifications, right? You're gonna get this?
I'm going to cover that.
Okay.
So we have tested different devices with our sensors in the field, so to speak. We installed one of our TD BLE on the truck that you see on your screen, and then tested the distance at which different devices lose the connection with the sensor. As you can see, The maximum distance for smartphones is 30 meters. And then for USB adapters that are used to configure the sensors, only to configure them, not to connect them to the trackers, 70 meters. And for the wired USB bases that you use to actually connect the sensor to a tracker that has no internal Bluetooth module, it's 150 meters. So yeah, there are sometimes cases when situations when our customers experience some issues with connecting to the sensors or connecting the sensors to their smartphones in the app. And so the main reasons for that are the sensor has already been connected to another smartphone. In this case, you need to disconnect it from that smartphone because with the smartphones, our sensors interact according to the P2P principle, or they work in P2P mode, one sensor, one device. At the same time, if you connect the sensor to a tracker, either via the base or directly by the Bluetooth connection, then it will still exchange the data with the tracker. I mean, it will still, keep transmitting the data to the tracker because with the trackers, our sensors interact in the advertising mode. And at the same time, while the sensor is connected to a tracker, you can still connect it to your mobile phone via the app, but only one phone, not two, not three. So in case you are experiencing the issues there, try to switch off other smartphones with Bluetooth and then try connecting again. Another reason for the issues arising while connecting the sensors is disabled access to geolocation. It's a regular, ordinary demand from the digital distribution stores, such as Play Market and App Store, that requires all applications that have access to Bluetooth to have also access to the geolocation. So you need to give this permission to our app so that it could, proceed functioning properly. And the last reason is it might all right be that the Bluetooth module in your smartphone is not of the highest qualities because they really vary in their quality. So you can try other phones, and it's there is a good chance that another phone will connect properly. We cannot guarantee the connectivity with all smartphones because there are so many of them, and even if we are talking about, I don't know, say Asus or Samsung, they produce the same phones, that's for sure, but the same module from different, I mean, the same model of the phone from different shipments can also vary in the quality of the parts that have been used to actually produce them. So sometimes you can have your Samsung, especially A series models, they sometimes connect to some of our sensors, but do not connect to another sensors. Again, our sensors. Sometimes they cannot connect at all. Well, in this case, there is really no other way than to try another phone. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about future development. I would like to cover this installation card, which is actually a small report on the installation. It's an additional menu where you can create a PDF file with all relevant information on that installation included into that file, like who conducted the installation, what sensor was installed on this vehicle, what mode it was set to, probably we will add the feature of adding the photos of the installation. So you will always have access to all relevant data on this or that vehicle and the sensor that was installed um, on that vehicle. This feature will be added a bit later, I think towards the end of the year. First, we need to implement it and test it in Russia, and then probably by the end of this year, or maybe at the beginning of the next one, we will add this feature to the English version of the app as well. Also, our plans include adding other sensors that we manufacture, such as DB2, which measures the bulk products like sand,
Mostly grain. The
grain.
biggest popular application is the
Yeah.
measurement of the level of the grain in the agricultural equipment like harvesters or your trucks, dump trucks that actually take this harvest the grain out from the field. In certain storage tanks, yeah, we've had cases when you can measure some cement, you can measure sand, you can measure. There was a case of application for the pharmaceutical use when they measured some kind of compound, which we don't really know the chemical name for, but
Yeah, probably something really complicated.
something really complicated, but not for salt. We've tried it for salt, but unfortunately the salt is very aggressive and it eats the special insulation tube, so not for that. But generally it's also we have to study case to case, but mostly for the grain. Yes.
Mhm. Also, Escort Net system will also be added to the app, and as well as our DGV 200 sensor, which
Ultrasonic
measures
proximity sensor, yes.
proximity sensor. But when this will be done, it's really hard to say because our developers are already their workload is really huge actually. But in plans, yeah, we have that. And I think Tim would like to cover the profit calculator. That's the idea for which we have come up really recently. And we're designing this feature mainly for the integrators.
Yeah, but that's quite a surprise. That's interesting. But you know what? We've had this discussion on how to make the application very universal. Obviously, there is future developments will include adding some new devices. In theory, every single device that we manufacture has to be configured as well as from the PC and from the application. But another thing is creating a social network of integrators, a social network of a fuel level sensors, telematics professional, fuel level sensors, enthusiasts, shall we say. And one of the main things is that how much do you make? How much do you make? What is your profit when you do the installation of the sensor, and how much what would be your profit? So actually, I don't really know how it's gonna work. Can you tell us? There would be
Well, essentially, we are going to analyze as many cases where our sensors were installed to monitor the fleets. And we will try to come up with some formula that allows you to uh, to make a forecast of how much money you can save by installing our sensors, essentially. So you will just type in some basic data like how huge your fleet is, how many sensors you need, what are your current costs, something like that, and then the app will return you the number of the costs that you might actually reduce by simply installing our sensors to better control your fleet.
Yeah, but that's kind of long time away because right now I've connected two events together. We're trying to find out who makes more money now.
Yeah.
Whoever just does simple tracking or whoever does installation of the fuel level sensor, and does one who installs wireless fuel level sensors makes more money than the one who installs wired fuel level sensor, and does the one who uses calibration machine, automatic calibration machine, makes more money than the one who does it manually. That's that's a big plan, and we have our marketing and business development department working on this kind of data, because it's crucial for us to understand where are the downsides are, and where we can where we lose money as integrators and where we can gain them. So that's one of a big idea for putting in the app. So we'll see. That's going to be one super application.
Yeah, but it will really be useful to all integrators, because it will help you convince the clients if they actually need to install those sensors or not, and probably they do. Probably they do. Okay, so it has been actually the last section of our today's webinar, and now we go to questions and answers.
We do have some.
We have pretty many questions actually. Okay, how much percent accuracy? I guess it's about the TD BLE sensors. 1%. 1% of the overall volume of your tank.
That's inaccuracy. Accuracy is 99%. I will always.
I mean, yeah, it's actually margin of error. Yeah. The accuracy is then 99%. Yeah.
Yeah. When I have to tell when properly calibrated and when properly installed, we actually have some very qualified integrators that do tell us that they have achieved 100% accuracy on the stationary tanks, which is very impressive. But they use special sets of equipment. First of all, they followed proper installation techniques that we do recommend, precise to the millimeter. And the second, they have used automatic calibration machines. There are quite a variety of these ones. We particularly use one that is manufactured in Russia, called Exotron. If somebody is interested, I can drop the link. You can go talk to them directly. They are very complicated machines, but very good quality. So they do automatic calibration tables. You connect them to the sensors. And if you have used this kind of machines, and if you do precise calibration, you can achieve very high rate of accuracy with capacity fuel level sensors. What do we get next? What does QANS stands for?
QANS is actually the raw data that the sensor collects, and this is a measurement unit used to measure the fuel actually.
Yeah, you don't use QANS in your software.
Yeah, you translate QANS to the measurement units of the range from 0 to 1023 or from 0 to 4095.
Yeah, like for example, typical value for quant would be 25,785.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, or 48,000. Blah blah blah. These big values for the for your fuel level sensor reading that you processed reading. It will be anywhere within, as my friend here said, from 0 to 1,000 and 4,000 values. What else we get?
Do you have any hand calibrator for wide version TD150? No, unfortunately, we don't have such a device.
Well, you see, hand calibrator like manual. I don't know if something I was talking before the machine. Unfortunately, we don't manufacture such kind of devices. They are very complicated in a way that they do require a separate assembly line. But there is I don't know, can we type it here? We can recommend. I can freely recommend this manufacturer. We do use his machine. Yeah, Exotron. WWWX.
No, just let me find.
Oh yeah. My friend, he'll type it here. Feel free to talk to these guys. You can buy their machines. You can import. They have a variety. They have the small ones. They have the big ones. I know that some of my friends here, specifically from South Africa, they do use machines. They assemble them themselves. They buy this Italian pumps. I think PUC. Their names are very precise flow meters. You can go to basically, or you can make it yourself, or do manual calibration, which is a bit tedious, really.
Do they have a website in English?
Do they not? No, they don't. But
Looks like
still,
they don't.
drop it. It's okay. You can. Yeah, it's all in Russian, unfortunately. But I think you can.
Well, just
There
in
are some
case.
guys speaking English there, so if you call them, they will answer.
Maybe you will be able to drop an email with
Or maybe I will be.
with the
Yeah,
private contacts.
yeah. Maybe I'll do some translation for you guys. Is there a Oh, that's an interesting question. I like it. Is there a possibility to mount TD BLE to the bottom of the tank? Reason: no room of the top of the tank. Yes, we've been through this. You can. The thing is that you can. There are quite long story short. Your full will be your empty, and your empty will be your full. Obviously. So, but then when you are doing the tank calibration after that, everything stays the same. You may need to use some sealant, and you may need to consider where exactly this tank is located. Is it going to be hit by rocks? Do you have to put some extra protection on this one? Do you have to put some extra insulation to avoid any leakage? But we had these cases for very complicated shaped tanks for the agricultural equipment. I think there was some video, the guy made it, for some kind of complicated shaped tank. But yes, the sensors do work. The only downside, yes, here is a downside, because the drain holes are on the head of the sensor, right? And so if your head of the sensor will be on the bottom of the tank, you have to be very peculiar about the cleanliness of your diesel
Yeah, you have
fuel.
to be really selective about the fuel that you
Very
pour in.
so, because it gets clogged, the drainage area, the drainage hole of the head of the sensor that are meant to be on the top, they get clogged much faster than just the cut, end of the tube.
When you install the sensor on the top of the tank, then you don't get this problem, because all the sediments, all alien particles, they tend to go down to the bottom. But if the head of the sensor is on the bottom side, then those sediments, those particles, they get into the
in this
drainage holes
two
and
small
clog them.
holes. Yeah. So yes, it's possible, but honestly, it's not designed to be that. To all the extent. What else we have?
Do you have non-invasive version of fuel level sensor?
I wish we had. The TD BLE, we've experimented with, obviously there's an option of ultrasonic, but we've experimented with this for a long time, and we are just not able to get a proper graph. And then the problem is also to find this proper spot on the bottom of the tank where to attach this, and it takes so much time, because for the small tanks there are so many echoes, so many like parasitic reflections. And when you have a bad quality roads, which we do in Russia, unfortunately, you get so much sloshing. So your customer at the end, you would not be able to provide them with the accurate report. So they stay unhappy, and then, so I guess that's, but that's not so scary to drill the tank. You see, in most cases, when people purchase the trucks, they change the fuel tanks. They put the bigger ones, the longer ones, so it can go longer. It's gonna be fine. We'll work like 60 more minutes. Okay. So yes, unfortunately, there is no such scenario as of now. We are working in very, very far future on the microwave technology, but we don't know yet when it's going to be out. We have certain applications for microwave, as for the big silo towers, and some kind of, but they are very big, very heavy, and very expensive, so not for the fuel tanks yet.
I have just posted the links to our app, both for Google Play and App Store, so you can go check the app right after we've finished. And I think there is one more question to answer, which is I want to know. I want to know if its fuel temperature meaning is embedded anywhere in the tube, or is the head cap? Yeah, the temperature measurement unit is installed inside the head cap of the sensor, but it actually takes the readings from inside the tank, from the tubes.
And I see from Ruan here as some Technotone calibration machine. Yeah. Technotone are our competitors in the field of fuel level sensors, but we have deep respect for them because they are cool guys. We like them. We drink some beer with them every once in a while. We meet at the expos. They're cool guys, and they do have flow meters. You're right, Ruan. So they do have flow meters. The thing is that they are a bit capricious to our opinion, because Belarus, where they make them, it's a bit more mild climate. They don't really get harsh winters. They don't really get very they are very mild climate, so it works fine in these conditions. But for our conditions, which right now we might have -25, -30 degrees Celsius, we prefer Exotron, just for the reason that they
they are more suited to lower temperatures.
Yeah, they are more suited to lower temperatures, and they are more rigid, and they have different. I think the Exotron stations, they're more expensive, but they use some different kind of hardware. But yeah, there are plenty of different kind of machines. So yeah, I see in South Africa you guys use Technoton products. Okay.
There it probably works just fine.
Yeah, maybe. So it's no. I don't know.
Roman, thank you for sharing this link. Maybe some of our other ITDs will find this product quite interesting to them as well. And I think one last question from Amadou Goy. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of your last name. Regarding fuel level sensors for fixed tanks, do you have any plan to integrate? Okay, guys, one of the laptops unfortunately went down. The battery was out, completely discharged. So regarding the question from Amadou, regarding fuel level sensor for fixed tanks, do you have any plan to integrate LoRa interface CATS -M1 for GSM? Will it be 3G? 3G, yeah.
Yes.
We are working on that. Our next generation of TD Online will have 3G.
Actually, we can already sell it. We don't have the price as just yet, but we do have them tested and out for production. They're going to be a bit more expensive. As far as for LoRa, a CAT M1, yes, as well, because we do have such kind of requests. As far as for LoRa, I'm not really sure, but that's going to be definitely stay in LTE and a CAT M1, LTE and the 4G, I guess we are talking about here. Yes, as soon as we have it out. Because in certain countries like Australia or United States, 2G is out completely and 3G is to be out quite soon. So some countries they move into 5G, sometimes. So we tend to expand this variety. For now, we have prices. We have 2G, 3G to appear like next week, and then that's it. And then we continue with that. Yes.
So we are trying to, to move along with the market as new technologies arrive. We try to keep up with them. Well, I think
it's time.
We have been online for more than an hour and a half. I hope we have been able to answer all your questions to the fullest extent. If some of them still remain, you can always reach out to us via an email or other contact details that we have on our website. We are always happy to give you a hand to answer any questions that you might have. I guess see you at the next webinar.
Yeah, that's cool. See you soon at your favorite messenger. Find this webinar at YouTube. Watch our YouTube channel if you did not. We try to provide some information on installations and things how how to configure and how to connect it to certain kind of trackers.
Yeah.
And then you know where to find us.
Yeah, I'm actually planning to start a series of short videos like calibration configuration 101, where I will be covering, sometimes you think that those things are obvious to all of our customers, but they're actually not. So I'm going to address that issue. So stay tuned. Okay. And yeah, be sure to check our YouTube channel from time to time.
Good. All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. See you at the next webinar.